My name's Wayne Bishop. I'm the Employee Safety Advisor and I work for Safety and Sustainable Development. The hazards associated with the welding aspect of it, we are looking at the health hazards of the fumes given off. And what fumes are given off, we know the makeup of the rail has got all sorts of different components in there, but when you're adding something to it by the metal within the rods when you're welding, does that react with the metal that's in the rail, with the iron, or is it going to give off a different fume or different component that we're not sure of? So, the main issues we're going to have is with respiratory illnesses. I think that's the main thing we need to be looking at here. For people, we're the welders, the guys out on the track doing the welding, where you've got a problem with the rail, where you need to maybe cut it out and re-weld it or rejoin the rail. So they were the individuals concerned that we have concerns about the welders. Most of the people weren't in the vicinity. And if they were in the vicinity, we need to actually encourage these people to remove themselves. The whole idea is if you're not close to the activity, you're not putting yourself at risk. And I think that's what we need to educate people on as well. We always think it'll never happen to us, but I do believe that we have a workforce out there who is actually very keen, very vocal. They want to be involved. They want to know what hazards they're being put under. They need to be aware so they can take it forward. And I think a lot of the good stuff that we get is driven by them, by saying, do you know what this is doing to me? And if we say, not really, then we've got something wrong. And I would encourage our employees to actually push and ask the questions. Because if we can't give them the answers, we're failing. So we need them to come back and ask us the questions. Well, they can be very serious, and I think this is what some of the studies were showing. People who had had long-term exposure to welding fumes were suffering respiratory illnesses, lung illnesses. So we needed to look into what were the main risks associated with this for our employees. We had an idea that manganese is going to be worse than iron. So I won't say we didn't completely understand it. I think the guys who are working this day in, day out have got a good idea of the makeup of the rail, makeup of the metal. But I don't think we had anything that we could push out to the workforce to show them what we really had to alleviate their concerns. Hence the work down here. There's work been undertaken in the past when it comes to the burning of rail, but not much had been undertaken when it comes to the welding aspect of it. So we saw the gap there, and it was a massive gap. So we decided that how do we actually find the baseline of what we're dealing with? So we decided we need to commission some work to actually do some monitoring, occupational health monitoring, to understand what hazards there were associated with the welding activities. I decided to use the National Track Material Recycling Centre here in Whitemore, because it's an area where they undertake all the tasks. They do different types of welding, grinding, different types of hot cutting. They have used rail here, new rail here, manganese coated rail here. Basically, it's a one-stop shop for everything that we needed, and it meant that we didn't have to put the researcher in harm's way by taking him to trackside. We weren't having to interrupt somebody's training abilities, so we brought them here, and the guys down here did a fantastic job, really worked well with us, and I'm really pleased with what they've done, and we're really pleased with what the results we've got. We did about 49 tests. It was on a short duration of time, we accept that, but we did 49 tests over 2 days. The guys wore monitors on the lapels, which is as close as we can get to the actual mouth, the nose, so we can actually see what there was breathing in. We did it inside the facility. The idea of doing all the work inside as well. So whatever we did outside, we did inside. I utilised the experience and knowledge of the welders down here, and Richard Oliver, who's the S&C quality manager. They've got years of experience doing this on trackside, so utilised their experience and knowledge. They told me what happened, so we monitored what happens, not what maybe I perceived to happen. So we did the burning outside, and then we did the burning inside, so we used oxypropane, oxyacetylene, to try and work out what the hazards associated both were. With inside the building, again, we closed the doors, we turned the extraction ventilation off, to try and simulate as best we could in a confined space and similar to a tunnel. Yes, and I accept that it's not like a tunnel because there's other elements associated with tunnel work. But it was trying to get an idea, an understanding of where we were in a closed environment. Again, we were using new and used rail, so we could understand whether new rail was worse or better. You'd assume it would be better because of the contaminants on the used rail. But we had both. We used both types of rail. And then, of course, we used manganese because we have manganese-coated rail, which is shown to be one of the biggest concerns we have, I believe, from what the fumes and hazards we're giving off from that. From doing this research down here at Whitemoor as well, we're looking more on a risk-based approach to PPE, in effect. We need to identify what the hazards are. We need to do a proper assessment, although I think sometimes we need to move away from assessments because it scares people, but assessments are quite simple things to do. We do them every day when we cross the road. We do them every day when we jump in this car. It's not a dark art to do an assessment. It's generally an opinion that you're going to have and what the consequences are, what the likelihood of them consequences are. But I do think we need to go back to a risk-based approach for all our activities and tasks and understand what the final risk is and put the correct and suitable sufficient mitigation measures in place. Is it working? I would say at the moment we've got some way to go, but not a long way to go. We have a starting point now where we have some figures, and I think the figures are very positive. Certain people have already had the report sent to them so they can start looking through it and reviewing it, so they can see that the hazards out there associated with welding are maybe not quite as serious as we first imagined they were. I don't think we'll know whether it's working or not until future years when we can show that our guys have not got any illnesses relating to welding fumes. I think it's a long-term project, as all occupational health is. But I think we can start showing how long somebody can weld for, a specific or a particular type of weld, how long they can grind for, and how long they can actually do any disc cutting or hot metal cutting. So I think we're building a picture up of how long you can operate a piece of machinery and be exposed to it before you get into the exposure levels. And obviously what we're trying to do is keep people 50% below the workforce exposure level. But from that point, we've got a guide. We know then, does that individual need RPE? Yes or no? If he does, we'll get him the best that's out there available for the job he's doing. If he doesn't, then we're not going to restrict his activities by making him wear something which he doesn't need to wear. The health and safety is driven by the top. It always has been, it always will be. You need to have buy-in from the top. And if it's seen that you've got the buy-in from the top, then everybody else will follow. And I think we have got that. I think we have got health and safety is firmly on the commitment of the senior people within the company. I think, like we mentioned earlier, we've very much been focusing on safety, and health is slowly catching it up now, and it needs to be level with it, as I mentioned before. And the two are aligned. If you've got a healthy workforce, you generally have a safer workforce, and then you've got the same workforce returning for work the next day, which makes everybody happy.
As Wayne Bishop from Network Rail explains, sometimes it's important to take a little bit of time gathering all the information together, talking to the welders. There's lots of different metals being used and it's different types of metal fume, but it's important to invest time in that identification phase, because you're looking to reduce costs and you're looking to make improvements, preventing people being exposed to welding fume where it's really needed.